This is the Airbus A350-1000, the largest, longest-ranging, most advanced twin-engine widebody Airbus has ever built. And if you've been paying attention to commercial aviation, you already know the story. Boeing's 777X, the plane supposed to compete with this, is years behind schedule, redesigned, recertified, redelayed. While Boeing's flagship widebody gathers dust and regulatory problems, the Airbus A350-1000 has been quietly racking up orders and cementing itself as the undisputed king of long-haul aviation. The widebody war is over. Airbus won. That's the story everyone has agreed on. Everyone except one man. In November 2023, Sir Tim Clark, president of Emirates, operator of the largest wide-body fleet on the planet, stood at the Dubai Air Show and said something that made the entire industry flinch. He called the A350-1000's engine, the Rolls-Royce XWB-97, the only engine available on the aircraft, defective. Not underperforming, not below expectations, defective. His word on the record. And then he refused to buy the plane. To understand why this matters, you need to understand the weight carried by the A350 name. Its credibility wasn't borrowed, it was built over millions of flight hours. The A350-WB program was Airbus's clean sheet answer to the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. With 53% composite material and 14% titanium, it represented a fundamentally different way to build an airplane. It offered a lighter structure, less fuel burn per seat mile, and significantly lower maintenance costs. Airlines were not just buying a new aircraft, they were buying a new cost structure. Singapore Airlines operates 65 of them. Turkish Airlines ordered 110. With dispatch reliability north of 99% and fuel burn beating projections, the smaller A350-900 earned its reputation. So when Airbus unveiled the -1000, 7 meters longer, seating up to 410 passengers, with a range of up to 8,700 nautical miles, the industry didn't need convincing. Qatar Airways took the first delivery in February 2018, and on paper, everything was going exactly according to plan. Now, fleet plans change. Airlines defer orders or swap variants all the time. But what makes this story different is what was happening underneath those glossy press releases, something almost nobody was paying attention to. The Boeing 777X was supposed to be the competitor, but after missing its delivery targets in 2020 and 2021 due to GE9X engine durability issues and the infamous cargo door blowout, Boeing lost its momentum. The pandemic gave them cover to slow down without admitting how deep the problems ran, and the FAA, still reeling from the 737 MAX scandal, wasn't rubber stamping anything. As of today, the 777X still hasn't entered commercial service. It is 5 years behind and billions over budget. If you are an airline needing a large widebody, there is only one open door, and it has an Airbus logo on it. Cathay Pacific, British Airways, Japan Airlines, and Air India, they all walked through it. The A350-1000 wasn't winning a competition, it was winning a coronation. Nobody was asking hard questions, because why would they? But look at who is not buying this airplane. While Singapore, Turkish, and Etihad are all in, Emirates is notably absent. Emirates is the world's most influential long-haul airline, and their purchasing decisions often reshape the market. They've been loudly searching for a new generation widebody and waiting impatiently for the 777X. Yet, through all of it, Emirates has never once pivoted to the A350-1000. What does Tim Clark know that we don't? Here's the maddening part of the story. The smaller A350-900 flies with the Rolls-Royce Trent XWB-84. It uses the same architecture and fan design, and that engine performs beautifully. So if Tim Clark is right, if Rolls-Royce really does need to go back to basics, we have to ask an uncomfortable question. If the basics work, what exactly did Rolls-Royce do to break them?
We are going to answer that. But first, you need to understand the machine itself. When Airbus sells the -900 and the -1000, they market them as the same family. They share the same name, brochure, and carbon fiber airframe. But the engine hanging under the wing of the -1000 is not the same engine. It shares the same 118-inch fan diameter, casing, and badge, but it is operating in an entirely different thermodynamic universe. In the desert, that difference isn't academic. It is the difference between an engine that lasts years on wing and one that has to be removed every 4 months. To understand the 97, forget the marketing terms like evolutionary development. What Rolls-Royce did wasn't evolution, it was pressure. There are 2 ways to make a turbofan produce more thrust. The elegant solution is to make it bigger, grow the fan diameter, and move more air. The second way is the brute force solution. Make the existing core work harder by spinning it faster and burning it hotter. Rolls-Royce chose the second path. The XWB-97 has the same external dimensions as the 84. To get 15% more thrust from that identical envelope, they ran the core significantly hotter. This means higher combustion and turbine entry temperatures, with blades operating beyond the melting point of their own alloys. They survive only through 3 lines of defense: thermal barrier coatings, internal cooling channels, and single crystal metallurgy. Every one of these technologies is operating at its absolute limit. The coating is just 100 to 300 microns, barely a few human hairs standing between a functioning blade and material failure. The cooling air is itself several hundred degrees, and the single crystal structure is constantly fighting creep, the slow deformation of metal under sustained heat and stress. The 97 pushes closer to all of these edges than the 84 ever needed. And the relationship between heat and degradation isn't linear, it is exponential. A 50-degree rise in temperature doesn't just reduce blade life a little, it drastically shortens it. This matters because of the EGT margin, exhaust gas temperature margin. Think of it like a bank account, where every flight makes a withdrawal. The 84 enters service with a generous balance, but the 97 starts with less, simply because the physics of extracting more work from the same core demands it. In temperate climates like the North Atlantic, that margin is manageable. But we're not talking about the North Atlantic, we're talking about the Gulf. In 50-degree ambient heat, a jet engine swallows the air around it whole. A turbofan is essentially an open mouth that inhales air, moisture, and dust, processing it through precisely engineered metal. In Europe, that dust is mostly organic and harmless, but the A350-1000's biggest potential customers fly in dense mineral particulate known as CMAS, calcium magnesium aluminosilicate. CMAS isn't just abrasive. Its melting point is around 1200 degrees Celsius, which creates a glass threshold. Below that line, sand particles pass through the engine as solids, but above 1200 degrees, they melt into liquid glass. The Trent XWB-84 operates comfortably below that line. The 97, however, operates at it. In Gulf summer conditions, it lives there. That liquid glass infiltrates the porous thermal barrier coatings protecting the turbine blades. When the engine cools, the glass solidifies and expands at a different rate than the ceramic, causing the coating to crack and spall off. It exposes the bare superalloy to extreme heat, leading to rapid oxidation and accelerated creep. It's not a gradual decline. Engineers call it a degradation cycle, but a more honest term would be a kill chain. The compounding factors are relentless. The 97 runs hotter by design, and the Gulf heat pushes it further. Even when the flight computer derates the thrust, it's still running hotter than its smaller sibling.
With Gulf carriers flying 12 to 16 hours a day, every mechanism of degradation is amplified. No single factor is a design flaw, but when you stack a scaled core, elevated baseline temperatures, extreme heat, and relentless utilization, you get a convergence of degradation that no single test campaign captured. Tim Clark has done the math. In Dubai conditions, the Trent XWB-97 survives roughly 500 to 1,000 cycles before needing a shop visit. At Emirates tempo, that is just a few months. Clark needs 2,500 cycles to make the economics work, meaning he's getting a fraction of the required durability. When your engines need rebuilding multiple times a year, you aren't running an airline, you're running an engine refurbishment program that occasionally carries passengers. Rolls-Royce has announced a Phase 3 durability package with new materials, but it won't be ready until 2028. Every airline taking delivery today is accepting engines that the manufacturer has effectively conceded aren't durable enough for the mission. The economic viability of this advanced airframe now hinges on whether Rolls-Royce can stop molten sand from destroying turbine blades faster than airlines can replace them. Now that you understand the physics, we have to address the boardroom. Rolls-Royce built, certified, and sold this engine with long-term maintenance contracts, knowing exactly where these planes would fly. This raises the question, what did they know, and who pays when the physics catches up to the marketing? We are no longer talking about turbine blades, we're talking about trust. Under Rolls-Royce's TotalCare program, airlines pay a fixed fee per flight hour, and Rolls-Royce covers the maintenance. It works well until the engine starts failing at 4 times the expected rate. By 2023, the cost of these frequent overhauls was landing squarely on Rolls-Royce's balance sheet. The supply chain couldn't keep up, spares ran out, and aircraft sat grounded. Since the A350-1000 has no alternative engine option, airlines and Rolls-Royce were locked in. This brings us back to November 2023. Tim Clark walked into that Dubai press conference and broke the unwritten rules of aviation diplomacy. By calling the engine defective and demanding Rolls-Royce go back to basics, he wasn't just venting, he was renegotiating in public. The fight was never really about metallurgy, it was about money. Airlines were losing revenue from grounded jets, and Rolls-Royce's TotalCare model had become a financial anchor. Clark wanted to know who would cover the lost flying hours and reputational damage. The Trent 1000 on the Boeing 787 suffered a similar crisis years ago, costing Rolls-Royce billions. While engineering lessons were learned, the commercial pressure to push thermodynamic boundaries while guaranteeing low costs remained. The fixes for the A350-1000 will come, but the institutional accountability is still being managed, not confronted. TotalCare isn't going away, and neither is the tension between extreme engineering and economic reality. The desert is mostly empty of grounded planes for now, but the questions about accountability and incentive structures are still waiting on the tarmac. That collision between a contract designed for normal operations and a failure that was anything but normal is the Airbus A350-1000 lie. It wasn't told in words, but in delivery schedules and performance guarantees that everyone involved had reason to doubt. If this changed how you think about what is happening behind the brochure numbers in modern aviation, subscribe. We go deeper than the thumbnail on every video. Drop a comment. I want to know, do you think Clark was right to go public, or did he burn a bridge the industry needed intact? And since we established that the A350-1000 isn't the savior we thought it was, that brings us back to the Boeing 777X. Is Boeing's delayed giant actually the answer by default, or does the GE9X engine have a hidden problem of its own? We broke down the physics of that failure in this video right here. Because in the wide-body war, there are no clean victories, only compromises.